and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, which is the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. And my very good friend Jace Hunt is on screen. Jace, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm not bad at all. But this is our second go at the intro, isn't it? And there's kind of a weird reason behind this. Because we were both due to speak to a chap called Chris Catalyst tonight, weren't we?
Yes.
And for those that don't know who Chris is, Chris has played in a variety of bands, and including ones of his own. And I would have heard of, Ugly Kid Joe and TerraVision, and he's played with Ginger Wildheart. But then we've got Eureka Machines, haven't we?
We've got Eureka Machines, which is when I first heard him. I also saw him with Sisters of Mercy as well at Sonosphere Festival a long time ago.
Right. So we've neither of us have met Chris. And as it turns out, bizarrely, I'm not going to meet him anyway. So Chris is running a little behind, and we should probably have recorded by now. And I've got to go out. And it's a belated 50th birthday meal with my wife. So we were up against it time-wise, and then Chris has been delayed. So we're kind of going to do the intro and introduce the conversation, but I'm not going to be part of it.
No, I'm going to fly solo.
You're going to fly solo? So, which I feel a bit disappointed about, really, because he sounded like he was quite an amusing chap.
Yeah. He did a stand-up comedy routine as Robo Christ for a while. So I was going to talk to him about that. So we shall see. And he's
a Yorkshire lad, and he's based around Leeds, so he's going to be good value.
It's the Yorkshire Mafia again, isn't it?
Yes. He's going to be damn good value. So, and of course, we could have talked about Haunts, and obviously, with him having played in at least one goth style band, we could have the goth conversation because Leeds is famous for its goth community that kind of comes out every couple of months, gives its black outfits a bit of a tousle around town, and then disappears again. I'd be quite intrigued to know a bit more about that community.
I'm sure they just go back to Whitby, don't they?
Probably. Actually, I've not thought about that. It probably is a Whitby connection. Ask him about the Whitby connection.
All right, I will do.
So I'm going to disappear off, which means I shall be hearing this after you've recorded it, even though you're hearing my voice before it's recorded. But stick with us, it'll all make sense. And before I go, we need to also say another big thanks to our friends at Focusrite.
Yes.
Who continue to sponsor us, continue to throw a little bit of money in our direction. It's enough Focusrite. It's not that we're not happy with it, but we also want our listeners to know that we're not living the life of Riley either. But thank you very much, Focusrite, for everything you're doing. Fantastic gear, wonderful, great. Buy some, it's just superb. Plaudits aren't high enough for Focusrite stuff, are they really?
No, I'm very happy with mine.
Yes. And you were telling me about something about International Podcast Day.
Yeah, so Focusrite emailed me this morning and said International Podcast Day is the end of September and they're going to do something, and would we like to be involved? So I signed us up and said, yes, we would.
Right. So we're some kind of Focusrite ambassadors for International Podcast Day.
I wouldn't go that far.
But, go on, let's go that far. Go on, let me live with it for a little while. I've always wanted to be an ambassador.
Okay, you in your head you can be the ambassador.
Or what about a podcast czar?
Oh God! If you would like to be a podcast czar, you can be. I'm fairly certain that Focusrite might edit that out.
All right, you're probably about right. Well, look, enjoy the conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing it back. And other than that, I guess we'll speak to you all very soon.
All right, see you later, mate. Welcome, Chris Catalyst. Welcome to 942, the podcast.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I was just saying before we started, I'm very sorry that I'm late. I'd set an alarm on my phone But then, well, what I did was I said to you that it didn't go off, but it totally did. What happened was I'd left my phone upstairs while I was cooking downstairs. I'm trying to like not hang around my phone too much anymore, and like do things like have my dinner, not with my phone in my hand. So
Yeah.
but that means that then like things like, because you rely on your phone for so many things, like an alarm for doing an interview for a podcast, and then when it's not in your hand, suddenly you find you're a bit useless. Well, I do.
Well, I suppose the important question is, what did you cook for tea?
Well, I'm on a bit of a diet at the moment. I'm doing a lot of stuff in the gym, and I'm just trying to like pay attention to what I'm eating at the moment. So what I had was on offer. In fact, they're not on offer. They're 2 for £5 in Asda. It's this like salmon and rice bowl that's very balanced, whatever. So I had the first one last night. I had the second one tonight. So I had the first one last night. Felt really virtuous. Then I got a bit stoned and ate a massive bag of crisps. So I'm hoping to not do the same tonight.
Were they the official Yorkshire crisp?
These were the middle class southern crisp. Actually, they were kettle chips, which normally I don't go for, but these were pretty good.
I do like a nice kettle chip. I had this week. I did the family shop this week in Aldi, and in the infamous middle aisle where they've got the specials was a family-sized bag of pickled onion Monster Munch.
Yes,
the dirtiest crisp ever, but that's what I ate today.
Oh, did you eat all of them?
No, no.
Like,
it's taken me 3 days to eat the family-sized bag of them.
You wouldn't be able to taste anything for a week if you had the whole thing in one go. Yeah, I do love a Monster Munch. I'm a big fan of the crisp.
I'm a big fan of the crisp. I have a friend who writes blogs on crisps.
Wow.
He's a world's leading expert. Anyway, we're not here to talk about crisps, are we? We're here to talk about guitars and amps and geekery and your new album, Kaleidoscopes. So, how long has it been out? About a month, is it?
About yeah, I think in fact it is. No, 2 months, just shy of 2 months, 6 weeks, something like that.
How's it going?
Good, yeah, thank you. It's always nerve-wracking putting anything new out, and it's everyone seems to like it. I mean, as always, it could do with a few more sales. We could all always do with that, a few more sales or views or hits or whatever. But it did what I set out to achieve with it, really, which was just, I like music, and
well, that's handy.
And I just kind of try to make stuff that, and it's such a cliche, but it is true. I try to make stuff that I think, like, well, I really like that, and that lyric would make me smile or think or whatever. And that chord change would make me go, ooh. And I just think I'm not the weirdest person in the world, and there's other people that think the same way as me. So I do make it for myself. Excuse me, but I do. And that old cliche of like, if anyone else likes it, it's a bonus. But it's true, and people have seemed to like it, and I like it, so I'm happy with that.
I like it. It's in my car at the moment.
I think it's good. I think it's good car listening.
It is good car listening. I was quite intrigued by the lyrics. There seems to be you seem to be trying to put sort of a positive mental health sort of thing out there. I don't know if that's deliberate or not.
Yeah. I mean, for some of the tracks, it's certainly something that I think about a lot, and something that I coming from where I come from and being who I am, sort of thing. It doesn't always come easily, and it hasn't always come easily to sort of be open about that stuff. It's I'm a Yorkshireman. We don't talk about that stuff here, but like it's starting to happen, and people are starting to talk about it, and so they should, because it's this year particularly has been really tough for a lot of people, myself included. And you go, well, it's easier to get through it if we share that and just go, hey, I'm like feeling this weird thing. And then someone else goes, yeah, me too. And it's like, oh, that's not nice, but it's like nice that we can talk about it. And like maybe it's nice to know that you're not the only person that's kind of worried or anxious or sad or like feels like they haven't got much purpose or whatever, you know.
I think this last 12 months has definitely amplified whatever you were feeling anyway.
I think you're right.
I mean, it's you know, I mean, myself like you have you know, I've lost my main income source, and it has been really, really odd. And there's been days where I've kind of felt a bit like, what am I supposed to be doing today?
Yeah.
You know, I should be in the same way that I would imagine. You know, with lots of touring, that at 9 o'clock at night, your kind of body starts going, right, stage time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
For me, because it's not a nightly thing running my event, it's an annual thing. You know, I hit February, and my event is usually the last weekend of Feb, and February is just, it's a nightmare in terms of working hours. It's kind of like 12-hour days, you know, every day sort of thing. And I just felt a bit sort of lost and empty during that time frame. It was really odd.
That's the thing that I've like tried to, when I've talked about it with a lot of my friends are musicians, a lot of my friends are in touring bands and also crew people that tour, and a lot of my friends aren't. A lot of my friends are nurses and writers and work in bars and surveyors and all sorts of stuff. So it was like trying to like keep in touch with mates from touring or mates who I haven't toured with but I know tour. We all sort of said the same thing. The thing was the rug was pulled, and although actually, and I'm no fan of this government, they did help out a lot of self-employed people like myself with the self-employed income support scheme. So on a financial level, it was, you know, things were doable. But, like, nothing to do with money. Like, just not feeling like you've got much of a purpose is really hard. And that was the hardest thing, really. And like, I'm busy. I like being busy. My feet don't touch the ground. And I had planned to have some time off last year, but yeah, like, not that much. So yeah, it was hard. It was hard for everyone in lots of different ways. You know, my girlfriend's a nurse. She was working on COVID wards. That was hard, you know.
Yeah.
And I said all along, you know, it sucked not being able to tour. It sucked not being able to go to gigs or go for a pint or whatever. But if my job throughout this unprecedented global situation is to sit on my arse on the sofa, then like, I can do that.
But you didn't just do that though, did you? Because you did all of those sort of like online gigs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
sitting on your ass on the sofa playing the guitar, but
still drinking beer. It was, I mean, which was really good fun and really gratifying. And again, it gave me like a bit of a fucking reason and a bit of a purpose. And it was, you know, it was good fun. It gave me a reason to like sit and learn a load of songs that I'd kind of always wanted to learn, and it kept me playing, and it kept me sort of being able to interact with a kind of an audience, and it was like just a connection. Like I thrive for that connection that you get from gigs, whether that's playing to 50 people in a in a cloakroom, or like 100,000 people in a stadium, and so it was nice to be able to do that. You know, it was good, and you know, and we raised some money for charity. But I don't like to talk about it.
So I suppose we should talk about the new album, because the first track, with your new friend Neil Gaiman, because I have the book here. I've had this book for years. I think
amazing!
It's an amazing speech. Make good art. So how on earth do you end up... Did you kind of just do it and send it to him? I know he's quite sort of like easily accessible on social media and stuff.
How that came about was I had this idea for that song for ages, for years, and I wanted it to have like a voiceover kind of a thing. And my initial idea was, and I had the arrangement and the tune and like where it was going to go and the minor bit and the major bit. And I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be great to have like a post-apocalyptic kind of, it's about war and it's about all, the bad things in the world, inequality, famine, fucking disease. And I thought this would be like a really good kind of gritty like entrance to the album. And then I tried a few things. Now, when did I do it? I think it was. The whole pandemic thing would have started by then. I tried a few things, and I'd got some speeches off the internet, off YouTube, and like radio stuff and War of the Worlds kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and it just felt. I don't know. I'm generally a pretty glass half full guy, especially these days, and I just thought there's enough negativity and misery in the world. I was like, let's do something that's a bit more positive. And I'd seen the Make Good Art thing at some point in my life, and I just came across it while I was looking for something to put on. So I illegally downloaded it, and I started setting it to the music. It was like, fuck, this fits so well. This is great. This is so much better than the original idea I had. And I was like, and I sat and like, I'm one of those people that like obsesses over things. So I, like, once I started doing it, I just had my head down for like 5 hours, just cutting it apart. I used to work in radio and make adverts, so we used to spend loads of time like getting the timing right and cutting stuff. And after about 4 hours or something, I was like, shit, I need to find out if I am allowed to do this, because like I don't mind breaking the odd rules, chinning the odd copper. That's a line from The Office. I don't mind breaking rules or whatever, like here and there. And I'm a little DIY guy, and no one's probably going to hear it. But I just thought this is the sort of thing that actually people could really get into. So I just the first thing I tried was I sent him a message on Twitter going, "Hi Neil, I'm a DIY musician from Leeds. Can I use the Make Good Art thing for this track I'm doing?" And he, to my immense surprise, after about 5 minutes, he replied going, "Yeah." And I was like, okay. And then when it was done, I sent him it through his assistant, who, her email address, you can get it on, I think, on his website. And he got back to me and was like, I think he said it was fabulous. And I was like, sweet.
Oh, amazing.
And he retweeted it. He was very supportive, and so I was really chuffed with that. I was really chuffed. Nice
I
fella.
think he is a really nice fella. I've been watching his Twitter feed this week because his Netflix have announced the Sandman comics has gone into production, and basically he gives zero fucks what anybody thinks about the casting and stuff like that. So fair play to him. So the album then was recorded with Dave Draper, who's a bit of a local legend around here because I'm Worcestershire.
Okay.
Did you record it at his studio?
Well, we did, because of the way that things are nowadays, especially with like the pandemic and that. It was like, I've got a reasonable sort of home studio set up that's really good for certain things and kind of lacking for others. I was only saying yesterday, you can't really record drums in a back-to-back terrace.
No.
So I basically I sat and recorded the drums on this.
Right, okay.
Which is a Yamaha PSR 300, and put the drums down to a click. And then we just replaced everything. And then I recorded all the other stuff. And then we just went into the studio in Pershore. No, not in Pershore. We did some of it in Pershore. We did...
Evesham.
We did the drums at FFG in Evesham. Or is that in Pershore? I can't remember. With Jace Bold, who is from your neck of the woods as well.
I used to work with Jason.
No way!
Yeah. So we both used to teach at BIM Bristol.
Okay, yeah.
So I teach, unsurprisingly, event management.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason obviously does drums. And you have to forgive me, I can't remember what the professional musicianship students do, but they all do this same track. So the vocal students are all doing vocals, guitarists are all doing the guitars for it, and drums are all doing the drums. And then they all get put into sort of like teams, and they all perform that one track.
Right.
And Jason's drum class was above me, and every other kid in the class has got an electronic drum kit. Jason's got a full acoustic kit, and I'm trying to talk, I don't know, how to write a risk assessment for an event or something. And I've got him above me just battering the shit out of a kit.
Yeah, he's not a tickler either. He likes to.
No.
Brilliant. Yeah, nice chap is Jason, and just a ridiculous drummer, ridiculous. So I did a lot of the stuff at home, and then he came in and put the real drums down, and then that meant that a lot of the stuff I needed to redo, because it was like, okay, that's not going to fit, that's not going to be sonically right, that's not going to blah blah blah. And then I did that at home, and then came back to Dave's new studio at the old Cider Press, which is now what's it called? Creek.
Don't know.
Something like that.
His last studio was in Worcester, I think.
His last studio was in Pershore on the industrial estate. I've got it here. The old Cider Press. Yeah. I'll look at Worcestershire. But yeah, it's a really nice little studio that he's got. It's there's a really nice cafe nearby as well that does good
always
poached
useful.
egg. Yeah. So yeah, we did it with Dave, and then me and him mixed and produced it. He's very good with. He's very good with all things. And I've got a good idea of what I want it to sound like, but I haven't always got like the scientific knowledge.
Yeah.
That like I need like a Dave or like Andy Hawkins, who I used to work with in Leeds. Oh well, I'm sure I still will again. Like it's that kind of scientific knowledge about frequencies, and also being able to go, this needs compressing in this way, and I'm like, it needs compressing, but I don't know how to, and I could sit and do it and get an okay version, and it'd take me a quarter of an hour or 10 minutes to me, but they can just go da 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 da. Yep, there you go, and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
So yeah, Dave's fantastic, and we got a really good kind of workflow going. Really nice studio, like I say, and the whole thing, putting it all together, was very inspiring, and just made me want to do it again straight away. So like, I'm writing for the next one now. I'm going to try and get done before the end of the year.
Oh wow! So what's happened to Eureka Machines?
Eureka Machines still going. I don't think Eureka Machines is one of those weird bands that I don't think we'll ever split up, because we're just pals. The problem that we have, and it's a nice problem to have, is that just everyone's so busy. The other lads all have sort of, day jobs. Two of the lads have got kids, young kids, and just, I mean, since we came out of the whole lockdown scenario, the four of us have been trying to arrange to go for a pint since like 2 weeks before the lockdown finished. Right, okay, pubs are opening. When are we going to go for a pint? And there hasn't been a single night that all four of us are free. And so it's like we're fucked for like doing a tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's called welcome to middle age.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I welcome it. I like middle age. But it just makes things difficult. And at the end of the day, with no disrespect or malice intended to anyone, this is my day job, and I've got to make a living. And yes, I can go off and do this and that and the other with other people, but when I'm not doing that, and I need to be doing my own stuff of some sort, and to be kind of, what's the word? Not brutal, but like to be. I need to go out and do it. And so if they're not free, I can't sort of sit back and wait for something else. Wait for them to become free.
Yeah.
And they're cool with that, and we did a tour actually where Dave, our guitarist, his wife was about to give birth, and it was a tour with the Wildhearts, and Dave realised we sort of had to do it, and so we got another mate of ours in to do the tour because he couldn't do it. And our friend Mike came and did it. He's brilliant and a really great lad, and he did a fantastic job. But it just sort of made us realise that what we like about doing our band is doing it our way. And we sort of said, right, we won't do that again. And like I said, it's nothing against Mike. It was just, that's sort of what we do and who we are. And to do anything else would feel a bit inauthentic somehow.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I saw you on that tour at Leicester, I think. Leicester Uni?
Yeah, we did Leicester de Montfort Hall. Yes, I remember it. Yeah, it was a good gig. They were all great gigs, those. Really great gigs.
Ah, cool. So it's kind of like, I was having a look, and whilst I was aware of some of the projects that you've been involved in the past, I'd seen you with the Sisters of Mercy at Sonosphere.
Oh, yeah.
In a huge marquee. Well, I say I saw you. I saw bits of you through a bank of smog.
Of smoke, yeah.
Yeah, but you've also you played with Ginger, didn't you? Were you on was it the 555 album? Were you on that one?
I've done a lot of stuff with Ginger. I think the first thing I did with Ginger was an album called Market Harbour, where I was doing some a lot of sort of programming and sort of keyboardy type stuff, and a bit of like backing vocals and stuff like that, and. Well, actually, before that, I'd done some backing vocals on the album before that, Yoni. And we just sort of always kept in touch. And, when he wanted to do the whole 555 thing, he got in touch, and I was part of the sort of, I don't know if committee's the right word, but part of the group for quite a lot of that in the end. And we fell in this, like, just in a really good groove where me and John Poole, his bass player at the time, worked really well together, and Denzel, the drummer. We just had a really good symbiosis and a good shorthand, and we all, like, me and John knew straight away which backing vocals we were going to do, like which one he would do and which one I would do, and like we just it was a good setup. That it was a really good setup, and working with Ginger was great. It's very it was a big learning curve for me in terms of songwriting and playing. A lot of that stuff was, a lot of the 555 stuff was pretty out there and involved. It had some pretty involved playing and parts and stuff, which is great. Because the Sisters, with no disrespect to anybody, did not. The Sisters. What was it? A friend of mine, Mido, used to call us the Sisters of Barcodes.
Yes, I do remember that. I also remember that you were playing, and I don't know, forgive me, it was either an Iceman or a PS10. I don't know which one of those models it is. It was.
Let me think. At that time, it was an IC400, which was. So I don't think it's like officially. I don't know what the etymology is really, but it was an IC400 that I'd modified and put the scratch plate on and the tailpiece and the little headstock thing to make it more like a PS10, because I couldn't afford a PS10.
So it is a Paul Stanley thing. Because I was
this is the thing. Not really. I don't like Kiss particularly. I just love that guitar.
Get off my podcast.
I don't hate them. It just like, I like that live album, but that's about it. Alive. Well, it was Alive 2. I liked.
Alive 2. Yeah.
I remember that. I remember hearing that when I was about 14 and being like, when I was getting into rock and roll and metal and whatever, and being like, ooh, this is cool.
You see, because of the intro to Popstar, which is Love Gun.
Yeah.
I thought you were a Kiss fan.
No.
The guitar, the intro.
No, I think, well, it's, better-la-dum. It's also like, what's that Metallica song?
Yes.
You know, again, another band that I'm not especially a fan of. I mean, you can't not respect Metallica, but not something that I would put on at home particularly. But yeah, Kiss, like the reason that I liked the Iceman, the first time I did, obviously I saw Paul Stanley with one, but the first time I saw one, I remember seeing Tim Smith out of Cardiacs with one, funny enough, that Ginger had given him. And I loved the two things about it. It was, for a start, it was the juxtaposition of Tim Smith, who at the time would have been mid-40s, he was a bit overweight and wearing this big long coat, and he was playing in this like mad, you know, I don't know if, do you know Cardiacs at all?
Yeah.
One of my favourite bands. And then he was playing this like ridiculous guitar, and I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. But I've always really liked guitars and like stuff in general, cars, jukeboxes, novelty lighters, anything that looks like it was designed by someone in the past trying to make something what their view of the future is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I always call like stuff like that. I call them Jetsons guitars, because I'm like, when you watch Jetsons, it's like cartoonist Hanna-Barbera or whoever it was in 1959 or 1963 doing this cartoon. This is what its life's going to be like in 2021, and like, you know, and obviously it's not like that with the flying cars and the, you know, meal in a pill stuff. But like the Ibanez Iceman felt to me like that's what it was. Like a lot of like the Mosrite, to me, like the Mosrite stuff is a similar kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, the Mosrite stuff is definitely a very futuristic kind of look at the guitar, but for what is actually a really simple instrument, you know. But you know, and they're kind of they're quite unique. I mean, I've played one because of Johnny Ramone and hated it, but. But you got to try them because of Johnny Ramone, right? It looks as cool as hell with it down by his knees.
I know, exactly. And this is the thing, like, I'm not sure that, like, a bald, scruffy northerner with whose BMI is probably slightly higher than Johnny Ramone's would look quite as cool with a Mosrite, you know? Andrew from the Sisters went through a phase of buying, what they're called. They're like Mosrites, but they are. I've got to look it up.
But the Eastwood,
that's right. He went through a phase of buying a bunch of those, and they're cool. I like them. I don't think they're as cool as the Mosrites, but
no. So you're not in the Sisters anymore, are you?
No one ever really leaves the Sisters.
Oh, right.
The full story was he wanted to do a tour at a time that I couldn't do it. I had other commitments, and so I said I can't do that particular month, but I could do this particular month or this other particular month or this other particular month. And it wasn't as if like he's on a release schedule or anything. But he just decided that it had to be at that time. And it stuck in my craw a bit because I was like, well, you know, after 15 years of playing for him, or 14 years or whatever it was, at that time, you didn't want to go, oh, okay, well, I'll wait until, you know, my band is ready, if that makes sense. But you know, like I'm over it. Like he's doing what he's got to do. Initially, it was like let's get a dep in, and Ben, the lead guitarist, had a mate called Dylan who we knew. Well, he knew. I'd met once or twice, and so he would come in, and then it seemed to work pretty well. So they've stuck with that, and no bridges burned. I said to Andrew, the thing is, like it was kind of amazing that in 15 years that had never happened before. Like shit, I can't do this gig.
Yeah.
Whether it was because I've got another thing on, or because it's my brother's wedding, not that I've got a brother, or whatever, you know, it just never go up. And I said to him, the nature of what you're doing, where he likes to do some years, you know, 3 gigs a year, you can't expect everyone else to sit around waiting for you. You know, the money's good. We got paid by gig, and the money's good.
Yeah.
It's nothing against that. But you know, like I can't live off that. And even if I had £1 million in the bank, I couldn't live like that because I like being busy. I like doing stuff. So I just said to him, I just refused to burn bridges, and as much as he tried, and I was just like, I was just like, you know, at some point next year, Dylan's gonna be busy for one weekend, and you're gonna have to ring me up and say, "Can you come and do this?" And I'm gonna go, "Yeah, all right, if I can." Or Ben's gonna be busy, and so I'll come and do Ben's job, or Dylan will do Ben's job, and I'll do his, or something else, you know. Rather than, you know, it's not 1984. We don't need to fall out and have stupid rows about it. And so I'm pleased to say it all worked out pretty well for everyone.
How do you get a gig in the Sisters? I mean, as a self-described scruffy northerner, how do you end up playing?
Oh, I used to be
in the
very
Sisters
good
of
looking.
Mercy?
I used to be very... No, I didn't really. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I had this project. That's making it sound a bit grander than it was. I used to do this thing called Robo Christ, where it was just me and an Ibanez Iceman and a bunch of programmed drums and loops and stuff that I'd put together that was kind of like thrash metal meets techno, and it was very silly and like funny. And around that time, Chris Starling, God rest his soul, had left the band or had been kicked out of the band or something, and Andrew needed a guitarist, and he asked around a few mates in Leeds, and like 3 of them said, "You gotta go see this guy, Robo Christ. Like he's the guy." So he came to see us, and it was in this social club in Woodhouse, the Woodhouse Liberal Club. I was doing this gig, and they came up to me afterwards, basically like, "Do you want to do a tour?" And I was like, "What band is it?" He said, "Sisters of Mercy." And I was like, "All right, okay." He was like, "Do you know us?" And I said, "Well, I'm a fan of rock music, so I know the hits, but like not really." And he was like, you know, it's always like a weird question, that, because it's like, what? How do you answer that?
Yeah.
Like, do I say, "Yeah, I'm a big fan," or do I say, "Nah, never heard you"? And what I always tend to do is just tell the truth. So I was just like, "Yeah, you know, I know this Corrosion, and you know." And he said, "Good, because I don't want anyone that comes in with like preconceived ideas of the band." And so something that's very important to me, I believe in a band being a band, you know, being a group, being like a symbiosis, you know. I've never wanted to be a session musician or anything like that. I want to be, I don't mind helping mates bands out here and there and stuff, but like, I don't want to like clock in and clock out. So I was like, "Come on, let's have a pint and a chat." And they were like, "Yeah, definitely." So we went into the other room in this in Woodhouse Liberal Club, and so it was one of those like old social clubs that one room had been sort of turned into a gig room for the modern young upstarts, and the other room was like still where all the people that had been going there 40 years still went, you know. And it was bingo night. And my first night with the Sisters of Mercy, we got kicked out of bingo night at the Woodhouse Liberal in about April 2005. And we were sat around having a chat and, you know, making each other laugh and talking shit and talking about guitars and talking about music. And they kept telling us, "You keep the bloody noise down." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry." And then we'd get chatting again. "You're right, you're gonna have to leave." so we had to leave, and thus began our relationship. So it was a complete accident. In fact,
Right, okay.
the gig that I was playing, the only reason I played that night was because my housemate at the time, Noah, his band was supposed to be playing, and they'd had to drop out, and he was like, "Shit, do you want to play this gig? Because I don't want to like just cancel. I want to go to them and go, I can't do it, but Chris says he'll do it." So I was like, "Yeah, all right, whatever." So yeah, it came from that.
Ah,
But there was no like, there was no like, I answered. But you see, Ben's story is very different because he had his like lead guitarist available profile on some like website like you used to do back then. It wasn't MySpace, but it was something like that. And then off that, Andrew had found his MySpace, and I remember looking at it, and he was saying, "It looks like Robert Perlow," and I was like, "Yes, he does." And then so we'd found him on that, and then Andrew had rung him, and Ben had been like, "All right, it sounds interesting, and we've got the same sort of influences. What band is it?" And Andrew wouldn't tell him. So he had to come up to Leeds to audition for this band. I picked him up in my old car, which was a piece of shit, and just like, I was a messy guy at the time. I'm not anymore, but like, it was like the back of the car was just full of like sandwich wrappers and crisps and stuff. And so we got in and went to my old flat, which was a shithole as well. And I did this, and it was only like halfway through that Ben realised, he was a fan of the band as well, that he realised, oh shit, it's Andrew Eldritch,
Yeah.
So he came from a more sort of on paper, possibly traditional route. But yeah, how do you end up with doing a gig like the Sisters? Blind luck and ignorance.
So I suppose the same question really is, how do you end up playing with Ugly Kid Joe as well?
So I joined the Sisters 2005. We did a lot of stuff. 2005, 6, 7, possibly 8. I can't quite remember. And then we just didn't seem to be doing as much. And I fell into doing. I was doing Eureka machines, but I was also so that was good. And then we did a bit more with the Sisters, and it just sort of, Andrew's getting on, and he's not a guy that's into getting on the bus for 2 months and like flying around the world to do 3 shows or whatever. And that's his prerogative. I still am that guy, and maybe I won't be when I'm his age. But so off the back of that, I ended up, and it was like, what am I going to do? I don't want to work in a shop. Nothing against working in shops, but I just didn't want to do it. So I ended up guitar teching. It was like, what can I do that I can do already and fits in with the kind of lifestyle that I want to lead? And I know my way around a guitar, and I can change a set of strings and set a guitar up, and I know how to plug stuff in and what way around it's supposed to go. And I'm quite conscientious when I want to be. So I started guitar teching. I did all sorts of stuff. I worked for the Wildheart. I worked for OMD for quite a while. I worked for Maximo Park for a long time. Really, like, great stuff. And one of the tours that I did was with Ugly Kid Joe and Skid Row. And I just really hit it off with the Ugly Kid Joe guys. I was on their bus. There was 2 buses, the UKJ bus and the Skid Row bus. And just by luck, chance, fate, whatever, I ended up on the Ugly Kid Joe bus. And just like night 1, we just hit it off. And what I don't think I knew when I went down to work for them, but their guitarist was this guy Sonny Bayo, the sort of share lead and rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
And Sonny was in a band called Snot, who I loved when I was 17. We all did. They were like metal, hardcore, punk, surf, Cali kind of, like, just really great, like, well, I was going to say snotty kind of punk rock from Sacramento, I think. And Sonny was the guitarist in Snot, and it was like, fucking hell. And I was teching for him. And again, like most people are, just a lovely fella. Really great guitar player. And it was one of those where, like, about a week, 10 days into the tour, I had to be like, I've got to tell you, I was a big Snot fan. He was like, oh shit, cool, like it was cool, it was nice. But yeah, we just really got on, kept in touch with Whit, the singer. And then I heard on the grapevine that Sonny couldn't do a tour. They were doing a European tour. And my friend was managing still does manage the band. And I heard that Sonny wasn't doing the tour. So just being a total chancer like I am, it was a European thing. So I just was, and it started in the UK, and I was just like, I'll do it. And without really thinking it through, because there's some quite tasty guitar stuff in there, and I'm not the world's tastiest guitarist. I'm good at chords. I'm a good rhythm guitar player, but I'm not much of a lead guy. And so yeah, I just kind of put my hand up and said I'll do it. And Whit Crane, being Whit Crane, the singer, was like, I love that. And so I ended up doing this tour with Ugly Kid Joe, which was mad because like you know, they're like American like surf dudes, you know. Everything's rad, and they're all like cheekbones out here, and you know, they've all got like loads of hair and just look fucking great, tanned and stuff. And then there was me stage left, and it was hilarious. Like we'd like load in at Nottingham Rock City or Glasgow Garage or whatever, and they'd be like, hey guys, how you going, whatever, and like, hey man, hey man, hey up, you know. And it was dead funny, but it was good. It was great and really good fun, and I mean, great players. I learned a lot about a lot musically with that band, and also about drinking. Because Whit Crane likes a pint, not in a bad way. That's in a good way.
It surprised me as an American. I mean,
he's old school, but he's but he looks after himself and he looks after his voice. He's got a great voice, really underrated voice. I think Ugly Kid Joe get sometimes, and they know this. I think they get kind of lumped in with something that isn't really them, just off the back of that down, everything like you, everything. What the fuck is it called? Everything about you. That song,
yeah.
Which was a bit of a comedy thing, but it sort of ended up defining them. If you listen to the last album, there is some heavy groove-based stuff on there, really good stuff.
To be honest, I only know that song by them. That's it.
Like, if you go in on the last album, it'll be on the Spotify's or whatever.
Yeah.
It's there's some really, really good stuff on it. It's quite very. They're all really into like Sabbath, Motorhead, that sort of stuff. And I think that's a bigger part of what they do than a lot of people, certainly than I realised. I remember doing the tour with them and going down and being like, Ugly Kid Joe, what's this? I remember being on the train, what's this going to be like? And thinking, it'll be fine, they're like surf dudes, whatever. And like a couple of gigs in, I remember getting in touch with their manager, like I say, who's a friend of mine, and just being like, they're fucking brilliant. Great band.
So I suppose we should talk about guitars for a bit.
Yeah, oh yes.
As when I messaged you, you went, "Oh, I love a bit of guitar geekery."
Yes.
So come on then. What are you playing currently? What's your current rig?
You see, I think for any guitar player who does a lot of live stuff, depending on who you are, you know, if you're Slash. I remember touring with Slash. Oh, just going to pick that name up. Sorry. There we go. I remember touring with Slash, and he's got a vault that's got like 8 or 10 pristine 70s Gibson Les Paul standards. You know, and it's like it's in a vault, and it's actually got a note on from his guitar tech Ace, who's a wonderful fella, that says something like, if your hand breaches the perimeter of this case, I will break every bone in your body. Lots of love. And then it's got his like Marine Corps name or whatever, because he was in the army over there or whatever, like, and you would not fuck with him. So that, you know, that's great if you've got security and you've got vaults and you've got all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, when half your gigging life is spent playing at the Philadelphia with I love doing all that stuff. I don't really want to be taking like my house guitars. Not because I think that they're going to get nicked, but because like what you do is you prop them up in the corner and you know stuff gets left behind and like things get like there's certain guitars that you don't want having too much traffic if you can help it, especially if you're not loaded. So I've got like my touring guitars. My main one being for the last few years a Fender Telecaster, which I'm looking at lovingly now. Which is actually the Chris Shiflett model, the guy at the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
But like with most of my guitars, I'll modify them in some way. Generally, new pickups, new hardware, because those come off the peg like pretty good, and the pickups in them are pretty good. They're overwound pickups, just in-house Fender stuff, but they're good. I got some pickups from a guy in Manchester called the Creamery. Do you know?
Oh, Mark, isn't it?
Jamie, his name is.
Jamie. Sorry, yes.
And I was just blown away by these. I think they're called 6 pickups. They're just that little bit higher output, just a little bit more grit, sort of in the low mids and probably the high mids as well. It just really suits the kind of the way I play chords. And it's just one of those guitars that's just really even all the way up the neck. I'd played a lot of like floating bridge guitars for a long time, and so when I got that, it was like, wow, this stays in tune. You know, the G string isn't always out of tune. So I love that, and that's kind of it's such a great workhorse, and I've got a split coil in it as well, so it's really versatile. Does so many different things, and if you said to me now, can you come to my house to put a guitar part down on a track, and I didn't know what it was, I'd bring that guitar because it can do most things really, really well. And it's white, and I do like white guitars.
Yeah.
I do think, although I do sometimes think, I think red guitars sound better. But
I'm of the opinion that black guitars sound better.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I don't disagree. So I've got the Fender Telecaster Deluxe. I've also recently acquired from my friend Mad Gaz a 1996 Gibson Les Paul Custom. I'd never owned a Les Paul because I'd never been able to afford it. And this one came up. It was the right price and it was nice. And it turned out, I've totally forgot this, but I'd said to him once, I've been at his house once, and been like, wow, if you ever sell that, give me first refusal. And then like 12 years later, he rung me up out the blue going, I'm selling that guitar, do you want it? And I was like, yes. I don't remember the conversation, but he'd sent a picture of it, and I was like, a black Gibson Les Paul Custom. Like,
it's just the coolest guitar ever made.
I think if you're into rock and roll, at some point in your life, you've got to own one of those. It had this wacky Seymour Duncan pickup in the bridge, because the other one I don't know. Like I say, it belonged to my friend Mad Gaz. He could have ate it or anything. And so I got my mate Lev runs a company called Toltec Pickups here in Leeds. And I just said I want it to be like the best Les Paul bridge pickup you ever heard. And he was like, right, okay. And so he made me this pickup, and we put it in, and it was a little bit underpowered. And he was like, okay. And then he took it away and did some more things to it. And it was like, yes, you've done it. So big shout out to Lev at Toltec, because he it wasn't like I bought a humbucker off him. He built me a humbucker, and then when it wasn't perfect, he was like, let's keep doing it until we get it right, which I think is totally brilliant. And it just sounds amazing. And he also set it up, because when it arrived with me, the action was about a yard. But it's like, it's so nice now. And like, when I got it home, it was like, I couldn't stop playing it. Just like, it's set up in me, downstairs in my front room, just like sitting there for like, sitting on the sofa, watching like World's Wildest Police videos, and just like playing the pentatonic scale. Love it. So I got that. So that was like a little gift to myself about a year ago. And then, almost as if to spite me, I've been looking for a really nice 335 as well for a long time. And just, again, the right one never came up. And then I just bought this one off Gaz, Mad Gaz. And then one came up on eBay in Leeds. And I got in touch with the guy, and I was like, can I come and see it? And he said no, because he was shielding, he was asthmatic.
Right.
Fair enough. And then he got back to me again like 2 hours later, and he was like, look, I know what it's like. If you want a guitar, you want to buy a guitar, you want to play it. You don't want to just, take a chance. And I went to his house. Honestly, I couldn't believe my eyes. So I went in. There's the guitar. I try it out, and I was like, just instantly like, yeah, I really like this. And I was like, well, he's got this like room in which he had the nicest selection of guitars that I think I've ever seen in like a private house sort of thing.
Yeah.
He had there was a couple, one like 69 Fender Strat, one like 77, did he say? Strat, and then a new one that was like the top of the tree, whatever.
Yeah.
He had, the reason that he was selling this 335 was because basically he'd just bought these two new Les Pauls, a white one, 73 Les Paul Custom that was white, and a 77 Les Paul Custom that was black. And I remember it because I was just like, and they looked like they'd never been played. And I was like, I thought of the Gaz thing, and I was like, if you ever decided to sell any of these guitars, and he went, I'll stop you there, I'm not doing. I was like, fair enough. But basically his wife had given him this ultimatum. If you're going to buy those two guitars, you have to sell. They were operating a one in, one out policy.
Yeah.
So I bought this 335 off him, and it's so nice. It's a modern one. It's one of the new high performance ones. Have you seen those? So it's got just really good circuitry, and it's got like a chrome nut and like tuners on the bridge and all that stuff. Just so nice. And again, I've not had a chance to record much with it yet, but it just seems like a really like nice recording guitar. And again, like, I don't think that can come out the house. The Les Paul definitely can come out the house because it's already a bit bruised and battered in a fun way. So that's really nice. I've also got a couple of Hagstroms. Hagstrom have been very, very kind to me over the years, and I've got a Super Swede that I really love. That again, the pickups were the pickups that came with it were good, and I believe now they're using the Lundgren pickups, which are really good. But I just got a couple of the creamery ones put in that, and it's just like a good hard wearing Les Paul.
Yeah.
And again, it's white, so that's nice. But I think Hagstrom have like really like gone from strength to strength over the last sort of 5 or 10 years, and they're so supportive. They're so like good to a lot of people that I know.
That's what Ginger was saying on the last podcast. And he said he really likes the fact that when he travels abroad and needs a spare, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't guarantee that with Les Pauls. As much as I love them, you can't.
Of course. And we used to do that with the sisters. We'd do a festival somewhere, and we had one of those, the Scott Dixon 3 guitar cases?
Yeah.
We had one of those that held 3 guitars, but there's 2 guitar players, so we need 2 for him and 2 for him. And it was always me that drew the short straw, which was fine because I'll play anything. And Ben was playing Strats and it's whammy bar and all that, so fair enough. So we would spec, a reasonable Les Paul or similar for my spare, because they don't have a lot of Ibanez Icemen in Estonia, or like later on the humbucker tellies or whatever. So just to be safe, we'll get a Les Paul. And like some of the stuff that turned up was just like, what is this? I remember one time in Japan, actually, with Ginger, getting a Gibson Les Paul is it a traditional?
Yeah.
And let me just look it up.
The traditionals are what used to be the standards, but then they
see if
started
this is
weight
right.
relieving the standards. So the traditionals were the unweight relieved standards.
Right. No, it's not that. Gibson Les Paul.
Was it the tribute?
No, but I was going to come on to this because the one that I got in Japan, it was like really ornate 70s. It had loads of circuitry. You could flip coils, split coils.
Oh, the Paul.
Yes, it was. That was it. It was the Paul. And I'm sure it was really, really nice, but it was just utterly unsuited to what we were doing. Unfortunately, I didn't need it because it was just a spare. But when I looked them up, God, they're expensive. And then I did another gig with the Sisters where I got a tribute, and it was beautiful, and it sounded amazing, and it played great, and it looked great. And again, I looked it up, being a geek, and they're like about 800 quid.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. So I was looking them up for a while, but then I got my custom, and it was like, nah, I don't need one now.
No. So what amps are you playing through?
The first, by complete accident, of course, I went through the whole thing of like my first proper amp was I played bass before I played guitar, and so I had a 15-watt Park Son of Marshall bass amp, or it might have been 30-watt. It's great, you know. And but then when I started playing guitar, I went through, you know, I had a Gorilla or whatever it was. But my first sort of inverted commas proper amp was like a lot of people my age, and I've had this conversation a couple of times lately. It was a Marshall valve state, totally brilliant, you know, for what they were. And so I think just by dint of the kind of music that I liked and the kind of bands that I saw at gigs and festivals and on telly, I was always just going to be into sort of Marshall stuff. Cut forward to buying like my first proper Marshall, first proper head. By complete coincidence, there was one in the back of the free ads that was 300 quid, and it was like Marshall valve head, whatever. And I went and played through it. It was like, this is great. And at the time, I totally didn't realise how great it was. It was a Marshall 30th anniversary, 6100. And so I bought it, and like that'd have been 20 years ago. I've still got it, and it's absolutely fucking phenomenal amp. I don't know if you've come across them, but they're the 3-channel thing. The clean channel is like basically the only good clean sound Marshall have ever done. Channel 2 is like a great kind of crunch sort of sound, and then 3 is more like, you know, like it's like an 800, and then channel 3 is like a 900 plus, you know, like a 900 SLX or something. And they're so great, and I absolutely loved them to the point where it was just like I had that one for years. Like I said, I've still got it, and I just started buying them if I saw them, and they would come up for like 300 quid. And it got to the point where I had did I have 3 heads or 4? I had 3 heads, and then 2 of the combos. Because if I saw one, I would just have to buy it because I believe in having a spare, and then I believe in having a spare and all that, and it gets a bit ridiculous after a while. So I've started shifting them now, but they're top amps. But the problem was they started breaking. And they started breaking because we would take them all out with the Sisters, because I provided all the Sisters' backline was my stuff, for both me and Ben. And the brilliant and stupid thing with valve amps is that the most important component in them is made out of glass.
Yes.
Which is fine if you're in your bedroom, but like I'd have, you know, 5 amps in the back of a truck rolling through Poland, you know, the B roads of Poland, or even in the UK, you know, and they're getting bounced about, and we went on one tour, so we had those, and we had a couple of Black Stars as well that I really rate, and all of them broke on this one tour at different times. All of them broke, The valves went. Something was jogged out. Something, you had to reseat everything, and it was a nightmare. And it was sort of at the start of we'd heard about the Kemper, and I was a bit like I've always, or rather, I used to always see some of that stuff as like sort of snake oil. Again, we've all tried out the pods and the all the modelling stuff and plugins and all that, and I'm always kind of like, I'm pretty sure you can tell. We were playing in Hamburg where the Kemper people were based, and the guy came down to show us. When we plugged it in just straight in my 4x12, and I was like within 10 seconds, I was like, I'm sold. This is brilliant. It was the profiled some of Ace from Skunk Anansi's amps, a Cornford, and it was just like, that's the best guitar sound I've ever heard. And then, so I bought one, and it's just, touch wood, never failed.
I think they work really well if they go through a guitar amp, like a cab. I think when I've heard it played through speakers, like monitors speakers, it just doesn't shift enough air for me. But if you're actually playing it through a proper cab,
what I found, I still don't think I've got the best out of it in terms of DIing, in terms of for recording purposes. But me and a mate, a couple of mates of mine, went to a friend of ours' studio, and we profiled a couple of my amps, all of my amps, and then like 10 amps that were in the studio, like all like wild, weird and wacky stuff, like Selma treble and bass, and a really nice 900 SLX, and dual rectifier, and like just some like weird little Fender thing. What was there? There was a Fender Twin, there was a Fender Blues Deluxe, which I really like, and but particularly because I knew my 6100 30th anniversary, because I knew it so well. We profiled it, and just with a 57 on the cone, and it just and then. And particularly, there was one guy at the studio that was like, nah, bollocks. I don't, it needs valves, needs all that, whatever. And then we got him back in, and we A-B'd it, and you couldn't tell. You just could not. Like you say, that was through a 4x12, and it was astonishing. DI it, you can tell, I think. But I know I've got friends that say the opposite, where their experience is that for DI and stuff, it's amazing. I do think that it's a lot better than like your pods and stuff like that. But for me, the live thing, it's been absolutely invaluable because it just doesn't break.
I get the whole point for touring. I mean, you think of like mentioned Metallica earlier. You think about them going on tour, because I know they use Kempers as well. That that huge amount of backline that they have to roll around the States or Europe or whatever it's like a truck full.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you could rock up at any venue and go, all we want are some cabs hired in, and here's my head, and I don't even have to have the head.
Yeah,
here's my USB stick.
Yeah.
And and it just makes life so much easier for everyone involved, really, doesn't it? And when you're at the gig, you can't tell.
Well,
if you're in the audience.
This is it. In a gig situation, especially like you say, when you're going through a 4x12 or some sort of cab, maybe there are anomalies that make you go, all right, maybe it's 95% as good, but through the Kemper into the 4x12, through the SM57 and the Sennheiser 421, and then whatever preamps they've got, whatever shit cables they've got at the venue, or you're carrying through the speakers. Like, I say it all the time, but like, no one's going to write in. No one's going to be like that. I think that guitar sound was 3% better when I saw them last time when they were using the amplifier. Because, people aren't there to... Well, some people, are there to discuss that. But, it's the most straightforward way of doing things nowadays. And I know bands that just won't do it. I toured with Iron Maiden, and they have all the backline behind the stage, and it's brilliant because it's just a brilliant cacophony of stuff that's in boxes and stuff that's just facing away. And I remember seeing Alice in Chains at a festival not so long ago, and Jerry Cantrell, a band that I'm not massively fond of. They're great and everything, but again, not something I'd listen to at home. But Jerry Cantrell, how he gets his sound, which is absolutely amazing, is that he has a cab pointing off the stage, but it's at the fullest of full volumes, and then they've turned it up again, and it just sounds absolutely amazing. And that's that's a Valve, whatever it is, and it's just different strokes for different folks, really.
I've just got one sort of observation of listening to Eureka Machines and your solo stuff. Have you ever worked with Willie Dowling?
Yeah,
it would work really well.
I love Willie Dowling. I first encountered Willie Dowling with Ginger in 2005, 4, 6 on an acoustic tour. And I'd been a Honeycrack fan when I was a kid, I loved Honeycrack. That one album. I remember seeing them at the Phoenix Festival in 1990. Could have been 5, could have been 6. And, I was a spotty little Herbert. Just starting writing songs, and, I'd not been playing guitar long. But, and seeing Honeycrack, and it was this is the kind of thing that I want to do. It fucking rocks. A bit like the Wildheart. It rocks, but it's got tunes, and it's got harmony. I love harmonies. But it's got big guitars and noisy drums, and it's fucking and but particularly there was a song called Animals that Honeycrack did, and I was like, wow, that is, I was a big fan of Oasis. I was a Britpop kid. Still am. I love that stuff. Still, probably the best guitar sound I've ever heard was Oasis at Whitley by Ice Arena. Marshall Blues Breaker and an orange stack of some sort, and it was just fucking brilliant. Anyway, but they played this song Animals, and I was like, that's next level. This the kind of 4-chord stuff that I'd been listening to and writing was that's not going to cut it anymore. This is forward thinking and esoteric and exciting and a bit proggy before I knew what prog was, and it's not at all proggy, but you know what I'm saying. There was a lot more thought behind it. And then our paths crossed a few years later, and we just hit it off, and stayed in touch. And I was going to play bass for Jackdaw 4 at one point, his band after Honeycrack, and then I ended up playing guitar for him because he'd had some kind of, I don't know if it was a fallout or what, but with the guy who played guitar for him. So I ended up playing guitar for them, and we ended up finishing the set with Animals, and it was this is fucking great. And it was a real moment where I remember being at the back of this tent watching them playing it at the Phoenix Festival.
Yeah.
And now I'm playing it, and he's there, look. He's there, little Willie. And yeah, and we've done a few gigs together and a few bits here and there, and I do really, really love Willie. He's a really brilliant human being. Really so bright and musically just astounding. He can play everything. He's just got such a great ear.
He just used to really make me laugh. I phoned him up years ago. So I run this event called the Guitar Show now.
Yeah.
But I used to run this big event that was at the NEC until I got made redundant 12 years ago, something like that.
Right.
So it was called Music Live.
Oh, yeah,
So every year I always used to book someone that I wanted to book. I was really good. I'd be given this budget, right, here you go, Jason, there's 10 grand, fill the live stage, for 3 days.
Yeah.
And because it was a general music, I'd go, well, I need a blues guitarist, but I need something a bit country, I need rock, blah blah blah. But every year I just picked one that I really wanted, and I got Willie's phone number and I phoned him up and explained about the event to him, blah blah blah. And I said, I'd really like to book you. I've got 600 quid, and he was like, my dear boy, I'll suck your cock for 600 quid. Consider me booked.
I can hear him say it. Oh, I love him so much. It reminds me, I need to catch up with him. We've been saying to catch up for about a year and just haven't done. Have you heard any of his stuff with John Paul, the Dowling Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan since I saw This Is How Old I Am.
You can say
since
The Grip.
I saw The Grip.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, when I was a kid, we used to rehearse at this rehearsal room in Hull, which is where I'm originally from, and the guy in there, Stu Forrester, he ran the practice rooms. It was £10 for 6 hours, and I'll never forget when it went up to £12. We were like, oh, don't know if we can rehearse there anymore. And he was in a Hull band called Rich Rags, and
I remember them.
yeah, and so he when we were listening to Terrorvision or we'd come in with a Terrorvision t-shirt on or an Almighty t-shirt or something like that. One of the lads was really into the Almighty. He was like, you should listen to this band. They're called The Grip, and he gave me a cassette that I've still probably got somewhere that had Vera Daydream on it, which was another one where years later, me and Willie did these acoustic gigs at the 12 Bar in London where we did 10 of his songs and 10 of mine, and we found there we were playing Vera Daydream and that Grip stuff. It's great, man. It's great.
God, I loved The Grip. Then Honey Crack. Then it was Sugar Plum Fairies.
Yeah, it's a great record.
It's a great record. I've got the live album as well that I think was a web only sort
right.
of, I think it's got I bought it and it comes with a photocopied sleeve sort of thing. I think it was sort of before Bandcamp or anything they kind of got going. It was just kind of it was just a CDR basically. And then of course was there 3 or 4 Jackdaw 4 albums,
something like that. Yeah.
And now with John, it's just I just think the bloke's a genius.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I remember, he's just a very fucking knowledgeable guy about a lot of things as well, politically. He just I remember going to Willie's place in France. Do you know he lives in France now?
Yeah,
and he was telling me how his whole plan, this was in 2012, 13 maybe, and his whole plan was to become completely self-sufficient by 2017 because he was convinced that
the good life.
Basically, yeah, him and his wife Monica were going to be Penelope Keith and who was it?
Wasn't Penelope Keith? Penelope Keith was the next door neighbour.
Yeah, and Richard
Kendall
Bryars
and
Felicity Kendall and Richard Bryars. That's right. But yeah, and his whole plan was to become self-sufficient because he was sure that money was going to collapse by 2017, and he was like, right, when that happens, it's basically going to be, Lord of the Flies. So he had his potato crop and his carrot crop and all his fruit and veg, and then he went fishing. And he, just how many people would bother to do that? You know what I mean? But yeah, he is a bit of a genius.
Oh well, if you speak to him, say hello from me.
Yeah, I will do. It's reminded me I really should give him a buzz.
Right, we should probably wrap it up then.
Okay,
thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. I'm really sorry.
Pleasure.
I'm really sorry again to have been so late. But oh yeah, like I said,
it's all right.
Hoisted by my own petard. Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah, actually, if anything, I was a bit fucking early.
Brilliant. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at The Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.